Matthew 27, verse 11 to 14. The Silent King. Before the governor, Matthew records a striking moment in the trial of Jesus. Open quote. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said to him, "It is as you say." And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he answered him not one word, so that the governor marveled greatly. Close quote. This passage places Jesus before the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. The religious leaders of Israel have already condemned him in their council, and now bring him to the Roman authority so that a sentence of death may be carried out. In this brief exchange, Matthew reveals the contrast between earthly authority and the true king who stands silently before it. The king standing before earthly power. The scene opens with Jesus standing before Pilate. The governor represents the political authority of Rome, the empire that ruled Judea during this time. Yet the irony of the moment is unmistakable. The one being questioned is the rightful king. Pilate asks a direct question: "Are you the king of the Jews?" The title is political in Roman ears, but deeply covenantal in the context of Israel's scriptures. The prophets had long spoken of a coming son of David who would sit upon the throne and rule God's people. Matthew's gospel has consistently presented Jesus as that promised king, from the genealogy in chapter 1 to the visit of the Magi who asked, "Where is he who has been born king of the Jews?" Jesus responds, "It is as you say." The answer affirms the truth of the title without entering into the political framing Pilate assumes. His kingdom is not established through rebellion against Rome, but through the fulfillment of God's redemptive plan. The accusations of the leaders. After Pilate's question, the chief priests and elders begin presenting accusations. Matthew does not list the details here, but the Gospels indicate charges of blasphemy, deception, and claims to kingship. These accusations come from the very leaders entrusted with the scriptures that foretold the Messiah. The priests who oversaw the temple sacrifices stand condemning the one to whom all those sacrifices pointed. The elders, who represented the people of Israel, reject the one who came as the fulfillment of their covenant promises. Their accusations echo the pattern described in the prophets, where the righteous servant of the Lord would be rejected by his own people. The silence of Jesus. The most remarkable feature of this passage is the silence of Jesus. Matthew notes twice that he gave no answer. Pilate hears the many accusations and asks, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" Yet Jesus remains silent. This silence fulfills the prophetic imagery found in Isaiah. Open quote, "He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth." Close quote. The silence is not weakness or inability to defend himself. Throughout his ministry, Jesus demonstrated authority in speech that astonished crowds and confounded opponents. His words carried the weight of divine authority. Here, however, silence becomes part of the unfolding purpose for which he came. The Lamb presented for judgment. By remaining silent, Jesus stands as the sacrificial lamb brought before judgment. In Israel's sacrificial system, the lamb did not argue its case. It was presented for sacrifice according to God's appointed order. Matthew's gospel repeatedly shows that the events surrounding Jesus' death occur in fulfillment of what had been written beforehand. The rejection, the false testimony, the condemnation, and even the silence all align with the prophetic pattern. The leaders believe they are prosecuting a criminal, but in reality, the events are moving toward the offering that will accomplish what the temple sacrifices could only symbolize: Pilate's astonishment. Matthew concludes the scene by noting Pilate's reaction. The governor marveled greatly. Roman officials were accustomed to defendants pleading for their lives, defending themselves, or protesting accusations. Jesus does none of these things. His composure and silence stand in stark contrast to the chaotic accusations around him. Pilate sees a man who does not behave like someone fighting for survival. The governor's astonishment highlights the uniqueness of the moment. The king stands accused by his own people, yet he does not resist the path that leads to the cross. The unfolding fulfillment. Within the larger narrative of Matthew, this moment forms part of the climax toward which the gospel has been moving. From the beginning, the story has been about the arrival of the promised king and the fulfillment of what had been spoken through the prophets. The silence before Pilate signals that the decisive moment has arrived. The covenant story of Israel, its promises, sacrifices, and prophetic expectations, moves toward its fulfillment in the suffering and death of the Messiah. The accusations of the leaders, the questioning of the governor, and the silent endurance of Jesus all contribute to the unfolding of that redemptive purpose. The king who does not defend himself. Matthew presents Jesus here not as a victim of circumstance, but as the one who willingly stands in this position. He does not attempt to escape the accusations or refute every charge. Instead, he allows the proceedings to continue, knowing that they lead to the offering that will complete what the scriptures anticipated. The king stands before the governor. The accusers speak many words, but the lamb remains silent. And in that silence, the story moves steadily toward the cross, where the covenant promises of God reach their appointed fulfillment.